Hello, my tennis patients. In today's checkup, I've got 7 pro players, and I'm going to show you how every good tennis player inverts the racket on the forehand. Let's begin. Example number 1 is Tsitsipas, and let's watch him do this key movement that every single player does, but not a lot of people understand, and I think a lot of coaches actually discourage this movement. But what it is a delay. And you'll notice before the swing starts, all the pros, they get the racket in this position and they keep the racket face in front of the hand in order to store energy until it's time to go. We get the free fall into pat the dog, and the racket face stays in front of the hand. It's a delay, and this is the most effective way to get lag. And yes, it's for more advanced tennis players, but it's really not that hard to implement, and anyone can do it. Next player, one of the most controversial forehands in the game, Daniil Medvedev. A lot of people say this guy wins ugly, but I just proved in a previous video that his swing is basically the same as everyone else. And as we can see, just like all the good pros and any high-level tennis player with a good forehand, the racket head stays in front of the hand until it's time to go. I should also note that we usually have the non-hitting hand on the throat of the racket until the ball bounces, and you will see all the other players completing this movement as well. But again, the racket face stays in front of the hand. It's still in front of the hand even though it's off screen there, and then when it's time to go, then the racket comes through as the last part of the kinetic chain, and we fire the swing. All right, next up, Casper Ruud, and we're going to see how just like every other player, he inverts the racket, okay? It's a delay. The non-hitting hand is still on the throat of the racket, and it's still in front. It does not get behind the hand, behind the body. In Canada, we call it wrapping. You do not want the racket to disappear back here. It needs to stay in front of your body to the side so we can swing inside to outside, okay? The elbow is never tucked in, and the racket usually doesn't go behind the back pocket. It's the delay, okay? And as we can see, we get the racket drop into pat the dog, and the racket face is still in front of the hand, okay? It hasn't gone behind yet, and then when he fires the body forwards, the racket comes through as the last part of the kinetic chain. The racket is last. Now, if inverting the racket head is good enough for this player right here, it's definitely good enough for you. Of course, Roger Federer, the best of the best. Again, the non-hitting hand follows back until the ball bounces and the racket face stays in front of the hand. It's inverted and it's still in front of the hand, and when he fires the hips, the racket's going to be the last part of the kinetic chain. This is the only way to store energy and prevent the racket from disconnecting from all this kinetic built up energy. It stays close by, it stays in front of the body, in front of the hand until it's time to go, and then it's the last moving part. A lot of people, especially at the intermediate level, are setting the racket behind them in the flashlight position way before they've even started to fire the body, and they're losing out on massive amounts of lag, which they aren't realizing if they only understood this pretty simple concept. All right. Again, if it's good enough for Novak Djokovic, it's definitely good enough for you. I don't know how this move is not emphasized more in modern tennis and how anyone could discourage an inversion of the racket, because clearly it's working for, the 5th pro now, and we're going to see 2 other pros who are since, retired from their throne on the court. But, it hasn't really changed at all, and people have actually been doing this for years. Again, the racket head is still in front of the hand. And again, we're going to see now as he starts to fire the body forwards, the racket comes through as the last part of the kinetic chain. Okay, there's a reason they're doing this, and you get about double the lag when you have this delay movement of keeping the racket head in front of the hand. It's the same. It's fundamentally the same swing, the common threads with all these guys. Now, let's take it back a couple decades and look at players who were doing this before these guys that we have analyzed were even born, okay? All right, so Pete Sampras was before my time, but perhaps some of the older people in my audience got the privilege to watch him play, perhaps even in real life or, just on TV. And again, we're going to see how he has a no backswing, and the racket head stays in front of the hand until it's time to go. It's still in front of the hand. It's still in front of the hand. And now as he starts to fire his body forwards, we get lag, okay? The racket is the last part of the kinetic chain. And boom, he's fired his entire body to his target. And it's fundamentally essentially the same as everyone else that we just looked at. All right, last of all, before we wrap this up, if it's good enough for Andre Agassi, it's probably good enough for you. The racket head is in front of the hand, it's hooded, it's inverted, it's still in front of the hand. We've got the delay, it's not behind his body, he's not pointing the flashlight. This isn't the WTA forehand. And now, as he starts to fire his body forward, the racket lags back because of a loose arm, it's along for the ride, and it's the last part of the kinetic chain. And not to mention we have a bent elbow, which is a topic for another video. In any event, thank you for tuning in. I hope this is enough proof that inverting your racket on your forehand is okay. In fact, it's a really good idea. I'll see you guys in the next checkup. Ciao.
Tennis Doctor is a self-help tennis book for adults. You could have 40-inch biceps, rapid anticipation, fancy feet, and a brilliant mind, but if you have poor swing mechanics, you will never win. On the contrary, you can have slow reactions, terrible footwork, and be 40 pounds overweight, yet still make a good shot if you can produce a perfect swing. By reading Tennis Doctor, you own the secret to a perfect swing, and if we have to, we'll call you an Uber to get you to the ball in time. Read it now on Amazon.